You're forgiven.
Don't do it a lot, so.
Wait for you to come up on the screen, and then I think we'll be ready to go. Yep.
Hi, and welcome to the Economic and Community Development Meeting. I'm Sandra Clear, the chair of this meeting.
Good afternoon, I'm Tony Emerson from District 4.
And I'd like to say congratulations to Mr. Emerson for his win and now elected official.
Thank you.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Have you had a chance to look at those?
Madam Chair, I have, and I move for approval.
And I second. So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So it passes. Okay, so we're down to the 2018 funding formula discussion. Sasha, I know you were going to talk to, like, the police department, and who else was there, to see about the contracted services being moved over. Were you able to do that?
TPD was the only department other than neighborhood relations that
Okay.
would be impacted by that. So partially, but with the transition from Chief Kramer to Chief Cochran, we haven't actually gotten face-to-face on that and hammered out details. So
Okay.
I can't tell you that the police department is 100% in at this point.
Okay. Which I really don't see why not. Because weren't you still going to have oversight?
So what we had discussed at the last meeting was that, yes, the agencies that are in that group that we discussed for moving for contracts would still continue to submit quarterly reports.
Right.
And we could continue with the process of having them provide us outputs and outcomes each year as part of that contract process. But then the quarterly reports would continue, and the committee could decide how frequently you would like an update on that group specifically, whether that be quarterly or biannually or annually. We could give you guys a summary of how they were meeting those proposed outputs and outcomes that were in that application. As an example, for 2018, we'd use their 2018 application, and we would sign a contract with them as we usually do, but it would be the 19 funding cycle where the real transition would happen, where they wouldn't go through that scoring process. And we had also discussed putting them on a 3 to 5 year RFP process for those services, so that we would be bidding that as we do other contracts in line with our contracts and procurement policy.
Right. And so I can't foresee any, I don't know, any reason they wouldn't.
So the only feedback that I've had the opportunity to get back so far from Chief Cochran was, hey, the funding, and my response was that the discussion was that the funding would go
Right.
with the contract, so it
Right.
would be budget neutral, with the exception of a small amount of staff time to collect those quarterly reports and then work through the contract process annually.
Right.
So,
Okay. Then we talked about, and this is where we had to need further discussion on the funding formula, and the concern was the medical society dropping down to a 25, which would be like $25,000 cut. It has been proposed since the last time.
I don't have the same one she has.
well, hers was one that we had,
Yeah,
using to manipulate the formula and the
I think I have that
percentages.
too. I have yours too.
This is pertinent for this part of the conversation
Okay.
in terms of the total amount approved for 18 and
Okay.
what the change formula would do
Okay.
to that funding level in 19.
I want one.
One of these?
Do you have one?
Oh, I have another one.
So we have three, I thought of two more options.
Okay.
Okay. One option would be to pull
just like 2018 approved, you said it showed 2019.
No, this one shows 2018 approved. How that's pertinent to this conversation is she's about to go into, Shawnee County Medical Society has 50,
It's 49,958.
so 49,000, and there's one other agency that's 26,000 that would be impacted by the $25,000 cap.
Yeah, there would be 3 of them. Okay, so if, this is 3 options that I've thought of.
Okay.
One, and this is done in other cities, that the medical society be pulled out of this social services pot and have its own, like, line item. Now, hearing from finance, they didn't like that idea. I don't know if it's you personally, I'm not saying you personally. They thought it should stay here. But so I kind of still need to figure out why that might be. Another option is to grandfather in really the 2, one is only impacted by $1,000. So really the 2 that have, $25,000 and $10,000 deficit. Or it's also been suggested that it would be $45,000 for the medical society. Congratulations, I bet you're busy today. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
So those are kind of like 3 options. Michelle, I just said to grandfather really 2 in at the 49.9 or the 35.6 or whatever. I kind of like it to be round numbers, though. Like maybe 45,000 and 35,000. Or pull it out and make it own line item on some other part of the budget and get it out of social services.
So if we could grandfather, that means that the organizations, those 2 organizations would remain at the level that they were.
Yeah, but we really need to get some kind of flat, like 53,719. I mean, can we make it just flat 50 or flat 45 or flat? If we make the others 25, then we don't, I don't want to make one 35.6, one
So right now-
49.2.
So right now, the organization is receiving 51, and we're proposing a 5,000 more or less dollar cut to make it 45, and you want to keep it round to 45?
Mm-hmm. And then that other,
Positive Connections is the other one, and they're at 36,964 for 2018. The third, which you are correct, it's
it's $1,000.
negligible in- compared to the other 2.
Right.
So-
It's First T, and that's 26,945 for 18.
So then the 2 organizations, Positive Connections, would not receive a significant cut, we would just put them,
They would be grandfathered in.
Grandfathered
But we
in.
just
I
need
would
to
support
figure out
that.
grandfathered into what amount. Or take it all down to 25 and move medical society out on its own in another part of the grant. Can you explain why that's not a good idea?
I think it just kind of leaves it out there to where it could be, it's just kind of on
Yeah.
its own. And it generally fits in with the social services description, although it might be a different funding mechanism than the other grants in there. But generally, it fits into that category and it keeps it, I think, more protected from a funding standpoint than if it was just its own line
But see,
item.
I kind of disagree. If it was pulled out and put into either under, it's kind of a neighborhood relations, isn't it? But anyway, even if you pulled it out, they wouldn't have to go through the funding process every year. It seems to me it would be more protected if the city said, yep, we're going to fund it every year for 50,000, period, done.
And you don't want the outcomes and outputs.
I don't know. That's my question. Because other cities do it that way. They feel that is very important. They want to fund it, and that's what I kind of heard last time. So if that's the case, why is it here, and why is it not somewhere that we just fund it every year?
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that the impetus in keeping it in this area is the fact that we can, even if we were to grandfather it and say we're going to make a $50,000 allocation every single year to this organization, it will still hold the organization to the outcomes. So if at any point in time, the organization does not meet those outcomes, then as a committee, we can go ahead and say they're not going to receive the funding, or we use the multiplier formula that says you received so much, you did so much of the outcome that you said that you were going to provide. Therefore, since your outcomes decrease, we're going to multiply, and then we're going to decrease your funding as well.
So a little more control.
Correct. It's oversight, so that this is constituent dollars. So we want to make sure that we are taking a look at the use that these dollars are being used for. And I would be more than happy to adopt the grandfathering idea, but I do feel that it would be very important for us on an annual basis and on a quarterly basis to evaluate what their performance is.
So if we grandfather, what do you think about the grandfathering in those two? And then we're going to have 3 levels. If we had a 25, a 45, and then what? A 35?
Madam Chair, I mean, about 45, do you mean the medical? It's almost 53 right now. Are you saying cut it by like pretty?
Yes, to 45.
Pretty good percent. I mean,
I thought it was 50 that we were talking about.
it's like 53 right now. If you cut to 45, it's a pretty good percentage you're cutting off.
Well, it had been brought back to me that some of us agreed to cut the 5,000.
5,000.
Yeah, it's 49. They got approved for 49.9.
Okay, on the document I have, it says
No.
52,779.
It's 52.
Well, where's that? It says funding approved, 49.9.
I bet you're looking at
You're
the
looking
sheet
at the
where we had
formula sheet.
been
Wrong
messing with
sheet?
formulas and percentages. So that one with the, yes.
This one.
The multicolored, there you go. The
Okay, got it.
furthest to the right.
Got it. So it's, what is it, 50, 65, 52?
52,779 is what was approved for 2018. And
Okay, so we're
for
talking about this one
positive
and this one.
connections, 36,964.
And then 26,945 for
Yes.
First T, Community Action First T.
Yes, and
That's like
those are the only
1,000.
ones that exceed the $25,000.
Yeah, but that
Cap.
still doesn't meet the threshold of, the minus $5,000 of reduction. So that wouldn't qualify. The only 2 organizations then that are under consideration are Positive Connections and Health Access. And I would be more than happy to support a $5,000 reduction as a base for Health Access and grandfathering the 2 organizations. I think that the question then would be, at what level do we grandfather both organizations?
That
So-
is the question.
So
Right.
that the impact is minimal. Yes, sir.
Mayor-elect De La Isla, a question. I don't understand the $5,000, I don't understand the $5,000 deduction you're talking about.
I would be content if we just, instead of doing a $5,000, if we said that we're going to grandfather at 50 and at 36, and that way it's solid numbers, and those 2 are grandfathered in, and then the rest of them follow the $25,000 threshold.
Okay, and I guess, and are those, I guess, you think we should ask the organizations if those are numbers they could live with? Okay?
No, because you could call every agency up here and they're going to go, heck no, we need this money. I think as a budget, as us responsible for the community money, we need to decide. And this is even before we asked Nick, how much does this all total that we're even going to hope the council can. I don't know if it's our responsibility to make sure they can function.
Madam Chair, but will we still be open to have comments from the public in case they could provide comments and feedback to us?
Yeah, if it's different than last time, and we kind of did that last time. So if we went with the 50, how about 50 for the medical, 45 for AIDS and 35, and then 25 for everybody else.
50 for Medical Society, 35 for Positive Connections, and 25 is the cap.
The remaining.
then
Cap for the remaining.
Rest of the group.
Now, Nick, can you give us like a grand total of what we'd be going to the council?
That would be, I think the last time we discussed it was around 650, if everyone made
Right.
If we did 26 agencies at 25,000, and then the 2 agencies at their different amounts, the
Okay.
total would be 735,000.
So it's not that much higher.
Well, it's only
Well-
4 now, right?
Then we would have to subtract out, of course, contracted services portion.
That's right.
So the 735 includes the current contracted services group, so that's not, that's higher than what the 2019 funding recommendation would be.
So then what is that, when you
So the-
subtract out?
2018.
2018 funding recommendation, if you subtracted out contracted services, was a little over 400,000. I think it was 407,000. I think what we talked about with the $25,000 cap was we would just basically rank them by score, and once we hit that threshold, whatever the council approves for 2019, whoever is underneath that would not get funded.
Madam Chair, question though. You're not suggesting though that every organization get funded at 25,000, are you? I mean, because some of them are only asking for like 14,000.
Yeah, we talked about that. And that's okay. They don't have to ask for the, 25 is the max.
Correct. But when we're hearing these numbers, you're assuming everybody's
Right,
getting 25.
right.
I would make the assumption,
They're all
to be
gonna apply for it.
conservative, that everyone that would apply for 25,000.
But if you remember last year, how many of them didn't even, their scores weren't high enough to, so it's still kind of, it would still be based on the scores. Their scores would still have an impact. Do you have that formula for the scores minus the, that we talked about last time?
Right. I guess
And
my
the percent.
issue there would be if someone only needed 5,000, for instance, or
No,
6,000,
then you can apply for that.
why would we give them 25,
We talked about that.
Yeah.
But there's no way to, we could not, there's not no way, but we could not think of another way to level everybody out.
Right. I mean, I'm supportive of the cap, but I don't think that should also be the minimum then we give. A cap doesn't need to also be the minimum.
Right, they did not propose that.
Okay.
The conversation was just that yes, there are some that are receiving
7,000.
much less than 25,000,
Right.
8,000, 7,800, 9,400, but in order to get yourself a number that would be most reliable for budget purposes, you should count on everybody applying for 25, just to put together your recommendation of the funding total for 2019. But no, they did not suggest that everyone would be required to apply for 25,000.
And then any
You're saying
money,
being conservative, I'm sorry.
any money left, we had talked about dividing up between everyone or giving it back to the general fund. Or funding new programs if there's any left. Only
Yeah.
the new, you could apply for new programs, and if there's funding left, you could be funded.
I like giving back to the general fund.
So do I.
I do too. I do too. And I would guess there'd be money to get back, don't you think? No one wants to guess that. No, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Jimmy, are you on board? Did we catch you up?
Yes, ma'am. I believe so.
Did we catch you up? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I will make
Yes.
that motion, ma'am.
What motion?
That we grandfather two organizations, Health Access for $50,000, Positive Connections for $36,000, and that from here on out, every single organization has a maximum application of $25,000 for the future,
With the exception of those two.
with the exception, exactly, that the first two are grandfathered.
And to be clear, you said 50,000 for Shawnee County Health Access, 36,000, or did you say
35.
35?
Okay,
Okay, 35.
Yeah,
35,000 for Positive Connections. Those would be the two grandfathered
Yes, ma'am.
agencies. And the remainder would be eligible to apply for
A
up
ceiling,
to
a ceiling of
$25,000.
$25,000.
I would second that motion. Sorry.
Based on performance.
You're right. With the
Still
same
using the
So we would still use the
percentages.
percentage.
Yes.
Formula, right.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, what else do we need? Untested programs. Last year, we had the 15,000 per program available, but this year, it's just going to be if there's a new program and there's
They
funding.
just,
No, and, I'm sorry, hold on. Yes. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. Can you
Right.
say that one more time?
If there's funding available and they have a new program that they want to apply for 25,000, and if it's available, but we're just not automatically going to accept new applications like we have been.
Well, I think we would have to, just talking through the process, I think we'd have to accept them because we wouldn't
Right.
know on the front end.
Right, I mean, approve
But it's
them,
not
I
a
guess.
given that
Right.
you'll be considered for
Right.
funding if you apply for a new program.
Right,
Unless there's excess
Right.
funds available.
do we need a motion on any of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that wasn't, I do not believe that was included in your motion just now.
I would make that motion.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
A second, the motion.
Second motion? All those in favor? Motion passes. And so how much is the contracted city services that so to go to council, this is what we're going to ask, that contracted services be sent. It was the Topeka Police Department.
Need this?
No, well, actually, yeah, that'll work.
TPD, it was
So.
Neighborhood relations.
What you all discussed was Safe Streets, Center for Safety and Empowerment, and KCSL, which is the juvenile intake. Those contracts and the funding that's tied to them be moved into the department.
Right,
That they still be required to provide quarterly reporting on the outcomes and outputs, and that they also be required to provide the outputs and outcomes that they intend to achieve with the contract each year. And that quarterly reporting continues, and then the committee decides how often they want us to report that back to the committee, whether that's quarterly, biannually, or annually, whatever makes sense. And then the other contracted service is HCCI,
should go
and that would go to neighborhood relations.
right,
Jayhawk area agent, JAAA, you all discussed moving down into the competitive pool that could apply for up to $25,000.
right. Okay, so do we have a motion to move those contracted services?
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move the contracted services to the departments
Okay.
as she read.
Second.
Second.
And the funding, correct?
And the funding.
And the funding, yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so contracted, what was the amount of that?
211, 233.
211,233. And then the total, we're gonna ask social services grants. Is that the
With-
7?
Without the contracted
4.
services in that mix, it would be 585, if I'm correct,
585.
with 22 agencies and that would be the max, if everybody maxed out and got a perfect score.
And the two at 50.
Yes, one at 50,
One at
one at
50, one at
35, and
35.
the rest at 25, it equals 585.
So a total 796,233. That will ask the council.
If you want to max everything out, I don't know that you need to necessarily.
What do you mean?
Well, you're assuming that everybody's going to get a perfect score and everybody's going to apply for the max, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know that we need all that money. I think it's just a baseline where we could work from.
Do we need to decide right now?
That priorities sheet, that is what we take to council, so that document I just gave you
Okay.
has to be, we need
Okay.
it done.
Right, unless you want to meet again, you need to
Right.
make, the ECD needs to make that
Yes.
funding and priority recommendation to council in January.
Could the motion be up to a max of, or should we decrease those amounts based on present performance and requests of the grantees?
What if we don't request enough?
If, and I would of course defer to the finance guy that's in the room, but if it were up to me, I would make your estimate based on the max amount that
Okay.
could be granted.
There we go.
And you can explain to the council that the scores are going to impact how much is actually allocated. So it will not be in excess of whatever that
Right.
dollar amount is, and it more than likely would be slightly
Less.
lower.
Okay.
So it'd be the 796,233,
No, we would only ask for the
585
yes. So I would make
Okay.
that motion.
to the 585 for the social services grants,
Well,
because the
confident that
I
contract
think
is
that
gone
we
now.
would, I think we would have to ask them to move the contracted services
Right.
at 211 as
Right.
well as ask for the 585.
Right, okay.
So
That would be your
it
funding
would be
priority
together, so I believe
recommendation.
796, 233 is what you
Okay.
would be requesting, however, we'd be moving the contracted
Okay.
services.
Then I would make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Wait.
Yes,
Could I
no?
respectfully request that we be given the opportunity to super, double, triple check those numbers, and if they need to be corrected, we'll let you know. That
I'm
way,
just checking in, I got 585.
Thank you.
And that's based off of what was, the agencies that were approved in 2018.
Right.
And just those
At
agencies.
25,000.
At 25, and then the 50 and the 35.
Is that a super double check?
Yes.
Okay.
super, double, triple check.
Okay.
Got it, we're good then. If you're good, then we're good.
Okay. So
Say that one more time.
Appreciate that.
now all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now, does anyone here,
Yeah.
would anyone here like to add their comments? Going. Okay, we do not need to set a date for the next meeting? Yes?
One more thing. Are we gonna have the minimum grant amount at 10,000 again?
I would say so. I mean, because if,
It
again.
could go less if they score.
If they score,
could ask for
exactly.
10,000.
They could
but
ask for
can-
10,000, but if they score, they
That's
get.
what we did the
Yeah.
last several years.
Why? Why not
Because-
just let them ask for,
Because.
ask for 3?
A grant of less than $10,000 is engulfed in the administrative cost of running the grant. Writing the grant, reporting out to the grant, showing up. These individuals are here putting hours that they could be writing grants
But they know that, so then why would they?
It's also a lot of administration on our end, collecting reports, fixing reports.
for $10,000.
For
It's,
10.
it's a net loss if
So
we
you
do
had
it for
10.
less.
It's what we've used in the past.
And we need a motion on that too?
I would make that motion.
And the motion is, I'm sorry. just-
That the minimum
Minimum.
amount requested of a grant for the city of Topeka would be $10,000.
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And one last thing, that sheet, I'm going off that sheet I gave you.
Yes.
The maximum of 15,000 per program available for organizations not established with the city during the last 3 years. We had that in there as last time. This is for the new applications if we should get that far. Do we want to keep that language in there?
That was yours.
It was mine.
Say that one more time,
Well,
please.
yeah, I mean, that would, Yeah, read it.
Maximum of $15,000 per program available for organizations not established with the city during the last 3 years. So it would be new programs.
And that would only apply if there was
Extra money.
excess funding available. And that would also answer the concerns that you expressed about us funding
New.
untested stuff.
I would
Okay.
say yes.
Okay.
I would make that motion.
Second? All those in favor? Aye, motion carries. Now can I say we do
Yes.
need another meeting?
Yes.
Okay, any other items before the committee?
If I may ask, Madam Chair, while we're talking about the cost of doing the grants and stuff, and this may be just a question, I guess a naive question on my part, not coming from a nonprofit grant type world, but most of the contracts like my company does are like 3 years of minimum length. Is it because of the funding of grants, it has to be done every year? Because would it be more efficient cost-wise if we were giving multi-year grants, like 3-year grants to these people so they didn't have to come and do all this stuff every year?
You would, because we're on a cash basis
That's the challenge.
budget,
Okay.
and law requires that you can't bind a future council to a financial commitment indefinitely. Is that the right way to say that?
That's good enough, I think.
That, right, yes. I mean, you,
Right. We can't make a decision for
For a future council.
future.
yeah, I mean, you could say that, but you couldn't really award them more than 1 year at a time because of
Right.
cash law, or cash basis, I mean.
But, and Madam Chair, we just changed this with Go Topeka, not Go Topeka, Visit Topeka this year because they're having a problem with multi-year contracts. It's kind of the same deal. When they booked an event that was, say they got kids wrestling or whatever, and it was a 5-year commitment. Under the way we had one-year contracts with them, they had to take all 5 years of that commitment out of their current year contract, and they were running out of money by mid-year, and we signed a multi-year deal with them.
But these aren't contract, these are more like
Yeah.
grant,
Well, and
social
it-
service.
I'm not sure that that's not a little different because you're talking about JADO funding, yes?
No. No, this was not. This was the city. This is something we did through the city. Again, I just guess, this is the first year I've done this process, and I just see how many times these guys have to come down, and for each individual person, it ends up being a lot of money in total, but for each individual organization, it's a relatively small amount of
I'm
money.
betting there's language in the contract that says that it's funded for this dollar amount for the next year, and that if it lists future years and dollar amounts, it would be contingent upon budget approval
Yeah.
by the government.
Subject to council approval, something like that.
Yes. There's an out in there, I'm betting, because if
Okay.
it's coming out of general fund, we can't commit.
Well, and again, I guess my question is, could we do the same thing? Because I'm betting everyone would love the surety of knowing, hey, for the next 3 years, we're funded, and we don't have to go through this whole process year after
But
year.
we don't have that, as a
And
city,
that's-
doesn't have that.
And the main concern that I have is, in this year, we have had funds to go ahead and increase what we have been giving to organizations. However, this calendar year, we had to cut back $94,000
Sure.
in our budget. So we can't, in good faith, tell an organization, we're going to give you this much money, and then we have a shortfall in the budget, and then we're going to have to go and say, by the way, we're bound by contract, this is what we're going to give you, but we're having to make cuts.
Right,
And that's my biggest concern
Sure.
with regards to that.
sure. And I guess following this line of thought, I guess my ultimate thing here was, hey, it costs us $10,000 a year to go through this process.
Yeah.
If we only have to do it once every 3 years.
I get you.
We can get by with $20,000 less, or, something like that. So it actually could save money over time. But anyway, just like I said, just food for thought. It is my first year doing this, so.
And I think we had talked about, or I had mentioned and heard about the city actually doing their budget for 3 years at a time. So maybe if that comes to
Yes.
fruition,
Yes.
then
Hey, once we
could-
get that new mayor, that,
that girl, that lady. Okay, anything else? That it? Okay, then we are adjourned. Congratulations again, Mayor-elect.
Yeah.
I think we have our recommendation, and we'll, Jen, if you're done.